Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 9:39 a.m. and we will now be talking with Abdul Aleem Gamza. He is Islamic Relief South Africa's Head of Fund Development, and we're going to be talking about their emergency updates and pre-Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program.
Assalamu rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh to yourself, Sister Julie, as well as the listeners of Salam Media. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on air with you once again.
Alhamdulillah. We know that Islamic Relief has been working in Palestine for many, many years, but I do understand that the organization turned all its efforts towards delivering emergency aid when the attacks on Gaza escalated so significantly from the 7th of October onwards. Can you tell us about some of what your team working on the ground has been witnessing in the region over the past weeks or so?
Inshallah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praise and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, we are blessed and we are fortunate to be of the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We are also blessed and fortunate to be living in a time where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us opportunities to gain closeness to Him by being of service to humanity. We are in the month of Rajab, which is about, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 48 days away from the month of Ramadan, which is around the corner. As we prepare ourselves spiritually, we prepare our mindset, we prepare whatever it is that we do to welcome and usher in this month of Ramadan. But with having said that, it is that we remind ourselves of our brothers and sisters elsewhere in the world. And right now, the focal point really for everybody's attention needs to be on Gaza. It cannot be anywhere else. It cannot be on any sporting activity. It cannot be on any sort of focus other than what's happening and the plight of our brothers and sisters in Gaza. When we've seen over almost 25,000 people having been killed, and that makes it 72 to 73% being women and children. Subhanallah. The death toll is rising by the day, by the hours, by the minutes. When we see how many journalists have been killed based on the fact that they're reporting what is happening on the ground. So that is 119 journalists having been killed, 337 healthcare workers having been killed, and we see the number of injured close on to 62,000. Again, we remind ourselves that a high percentage of this is women and children, over 70%. So the intense bombing has continued. As we, in many parts of the country, we've seen it in KwaZulu-Natal, that there's been an immense amount of rain and there's been some floods. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring ease and relief to our brothers and sisters in KwaZulu-Natal. But as the raindrops have rained down in that particular area, so has the bombs and the missiles rained down on our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Again, we must not become desensitized, because this is what the Western media wants to portray, that everything is okay, everything is under control. But we must continue the conversations. We must continue to keep the awareness alive of what's happening. When we see Khan Yunis coming under an intense attack over the past week with so many casualties, and Khan Yunis has been one of the last outposts because so many of the reporters have been coming from there, whilst other parts of Gaza has been decimated. So the Gaza Strip is a very dangerous place. Again, we think about our beautiful children. MashaAllah, last week they went back to school, and we make sure that we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them all this year for them to achieve what they set out to achieve. But in the same vein, as we look at these children, our children, we think about our other children, and that's in Gaza, who are unable to go to school, who are unable to fulfill their dreams and live towards their dreams at this point in time. Subhanallah, when we see how winter has set in, how cold it is, when we see that there is no shelter, there's a lack of shelter for our brothers and sisters in Gaza, whilst we are maybe complaining about the heat here in South Africa, we are sitting, oh, subhanallah, it's very hot, and this and that, we don't spare thought perhaps of our brothers and sisters who are suffering in Palestine because of the cold, inclement weather that they are experiencing. And according to the United Nations and the Work Agency for Palestinian refugees, The shelters that they have, very flimsy right now, and can house not more than 20 people at a time. So we know what is happening. We've seen what is happening. But I'm appealing to every single person. If you are listening to this discussion this morning, is to make sure you keep yourself informed about what's happening on the ground in Gaza. That you keep these conversations alive with your families and with your friends, and not more importantly, that you continue to contribute for the alleviation of the plight of the assistance for the plight of the brothers and sisters in Gaza, and also that you call for a ceasefire. I think these are very important things that we need to consider as we've seen, when we talk about load shedding in South Africa, 2 hours goes by and maybe don't have electricity, and there's times that maybe a little bit longer, and it's a big problem. But to know that you're going through days without electricity, without power, you're days without connectivity to the world, no internet, no WhatsApp, anything, no communication, and you are left to your own devices because nobody can speak to you and you cannot speak to anybody else. That is the kind of situation, you know how that must be feeling. It's a feeling of loneliness, it's a feeling of loss of contact, and all that you can do is raise your hands and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I urge every single person again, whenever we're making salah, whether it be Dhuhr salah is coming up, or Asr, Maghrib, or Isha, Fajr tomorrow morning, but every single salah, continue to make dua for our brothers and sisters in Gaza and elsewhere in the world, inshallah.
So, Abdul Aleem, what is the status of the all but collapsed healthcare system in the region?
SubhanAllah, it's incredibly grim, it's bleak, as the world continues to demand an immediate ceasefire. Again, I think continue to voice this. Fears are growing that the largest hospital is still partly functioning, but that's in the Al Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis is being forced to close due to heavy bombings in its surrounding areas. And again, as we've seen with Al Shifa hospital, as we've seen with the other hospitals inside of Gaza, how they've systematically been targeted, but not more so that they have had to close their doors, not to be able to serve the cause and the help that the people really require. So the Gaza Ministry of Health has reported more than 80,000 cases of viral hepatitis. And you can imagine, you don't have access to clean running water.
Oh.
What that would mean, the diseases that's going around. Again, I remind myself and everybody else, let's go back to 2020. Let's think about COVID-19. Wash and sanitize. Those were the words that came out of our mouths to make sure that we kept ourselves safe. And we know that if you don't wash and you're unable to sanitize, that the diseases and the germs spread quite rapidly. And this is a scenario that our brothers and sisters, besides being starved to death, besides being dehydrated, they're now being faced with a pandemic or viral proportions of hepatitis A, and that is because of overcrowding and, as I said, the grossly unsanitary living conditions that they find themselves in.
So, tell us more about Islamic Relief's humanitarian response in the region.
Alhamdulillah, everything happens through the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who places the softness of the hearts of our brothers and sisters to make those donations. And alhamdulillah, it is we recognize all those people, our loyal donors and supporters. We've been able to deliver over 85,000 parcels. We've been ready to eat meals. 1 million people have benefited from that. Ready to eat items for nearly 700,000 people, food vouchers, and there's been businesses that have still been able to trade. With about 26,000 people have benefited from that, and there's been fresh vegetables to over 630,000 people. And it may sound like huge numbers, but I think we must realize that this is from the 7th of October to now. This is what we've been able to do. The need is dire. The need is catastrophic, to say the least. The people are hanging on by the fingernails, really, to try and survive and get something. So the items of support that we also supplied in the regions, have been to provide clean shelters of 236, and hygiene kits to over 257,000 people. So we continue to provide holistic support to the orphans and vulnerable children in the region. But I think it's important to note that there is limited resources, there's limited access to items coming into the region. So there's a limitation of what can be done. And again, I remind myself about those brothers and sisters of Islamic Relief working on the ground in Gaza, making sure that they are taking care of the most vulnerable people before they take care of themselves, to make sure that they are getting to these individuals as best possible as we can. And the one thing we must remember is that, psychosocial trauma counseling needs to take place, because these children that are faced with bombings on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. They've seen mayhem, they've seen destruction, they've seen death, they've seen people being hurt. They themselves have been hurt physically, and emotionally they've been scarred. So we are also dealing with psychosocial trauma cases as well. So alhamdulillah, we will continue to provide the assistance as far as possible.
We know that Ramadan is a little over a month away. What plans does Islamic Relief have to help save lives and bring relief to those in need during the sacred month of Ramadan?
Firstly, I think it's important that we must realize that, Ramadan is a time when everybody wants to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gain his maximum benefit for every single act they do, every sunnah act, every fard act. They want to get the maximum reward for this. And yeah, it's a great opportunity. So our focus obviously will be based around the needs globally and locally. So the needs, as I said, really right now, the focal point is Gaza. The focal point is our brothers and sisters in Gaza, that the need is there. But we do not lose sight of our brothers and sisters in Syria. We do not lose sight of our brothers and sisters in Yemen, in Myanmar. We don't lose sight of that. And in the Horn of Africa, where there's a hectic drought taking place. So we take cognizance of all these things, and Islamic Relief is working on the ground. And we are able to facilitate. You bring your zakat to us. We are able to facilitate to make sure that it's going to the places that you've designated. When you bring your fitrah to us, we'll make sure it gets to the right hands. And whatever, if you've got sadaqah, bismillah. If you've got fidya, because we know people say, people are unable to fast, they bring their fidya to us as well. Bismillah, bring it, and Islamic Relief will fulfill their amana that you've entrusted us with. So again, it is, everybody's on board. We are working. Plans are in place for Ramadan. But again, I remind each and every person, when you think about, say, I gave 1,000 rand in October towards Palestine. I just want to remind you that, do we say that about perhaps an insurance policy that we have? Oh, I paid my premium last month. I don't have to pay it this month. We pay every single month diligently, because we know that if something happens, for example, it's short-term insurance, whatever it is that we have, we make sure, because our household goods could be at risk. So the same year, we cannot say that we've given once. This is a continuous need, because the people, you may feed them today, tomorrow they will go hungry the day thereafter. And it's not because they want to be in the situation, it's because they find themselves in the situation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed it such that we are sitting here in South Africa. We are being tested the most, and here's an opportunity for us to make that gesture. So in Ramadan, you can say, okay, for every day of Ramadan, I'm going to give 100 rand. So today I'm giving 100 rand, and at the end of the month, I've given 3,000 rand, for an example. And you can make those contributions, because it is about the consistency of the donation. It is about the frequency of the donation. It does not have to be the hugest, but a small increments makes a big difference. And these are the things that we need to bear in mind. Lessons for us to take into Ramadan is to be, what can I do less of? Because that is what Ramadan is part of a training ground, is to say that I can start, perhaps I eat less, perhaps I spend less on various items. Let's not stockpile our fridges and our freezers for the entire month of Ramadan, whilst our brothers and sisters in Gaza are going to be going hungry, whilst our brothers and sisters in Gaza will be undergoing a Ramadan without shelter, without medical assistance, without the clean running water. Let us think about that, my beloved brothers and sisters, before we think about what are we going to have for Ramadan. And our plan for Ramadan shouldn't be stockpiling our freezers. Our plan for Ramadan is how can I gain the highest level of spirituality and gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our brothers and sisters in Gaza gives us that opportunity, gives us an opportunity to draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by serving humanity.
And lastly, as we are running out of time, unfortunately, what are some of the ways that our listeners can either learn more about or get involved in Islamic Relief's important work?
How they can get, they can obviously go onto our website, which is www.islamic-relief.org.za, and then you can make your secure donations on that platform. What you can also do, and Ramadan is a good time to start with that, is to start a crowdfunding page. And you can say, my name is Abdul Aleem, and I want to raise 50,000 rand towards our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Create a crowdfunding page for me. I'll get my family, my friends, and I'll amplify it, and I will raise X amount. And we get more people to do that, and we get more people to engage with that. So there's many ways that we can be of benefit. You can also decide, oh, I want to be a volunteer. And there are so many facets to volunteering with Islamic Relief. You'll be able to hand out food hampers. You'll be able to go and assist in emergencies. You'll also be able to raise funds for our much needed projects locally and internationally. And we also encourage people to go on to follow us on our Instagram and Facebook pages to see regular updates, to see the work that is being done on the ground, so you can be informed. You can see how Islamic Relief is going about with the work, and whatever questions you have, you raise those questions with ourselves. You go into our offices there in Greenside, or if you are in Durban, it is in the Sherwood area. You go into our offices and you engage us in conversation. So there's always a way and a means for you to get involved, whether you are able to give up your time. If you're unable to give up your time and you are more able to raise funds, then you can do that as well. And if you are not able to do any one of that, but you're able to make a donation, bismillah, you can do that as well. So there's many facets to what we can do and how we can get involved, but we cannot turn around and say, I've never had the opportunity, I've never had the chance, I've never been given or seen how I can assist. Here are many facets for us to be able to get involved, make a difference, and I want to stress this, you're not making a difference to the lives of our brothers and sisters. You're making a difference to your own life in this world and in the year after. We are the biggest benefactors of any charity that we do, of any time that we give, and we must not lose sight of that. We must go ahead and continue with that. We continue spreading the word of goodness. And as we multiply that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will add that to our scale of good, on the scale of good deeds. It is like an investment that we have that will roll over. We know we speak about residual income. So if we speak to one person and that person does good, and that person speaks to another person and that person speaks, so it becomes residual income in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we stand in the courts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah, it will be a mountain of good deeds. And we will say, we will not know where this mountain of good deeds came from, but it's all because of one action that we've done, one person that we've spoken to, one dua that we've made, and one hour of our time that we may have sacrificed to do something good.
Inshallah, and that's where we're going to leave it. That was Abdul Aleem Gamza, Islamic Relief South Africa's Head of Fund Development. It's exactly 9:58 a.m. News and Views on Salam Media.